Welcome to Redeeming Love, encouraging moment. On behalf of our Bishop-elect, Arthur Jamie Crone, and co-pastor prophetess Tanya Crone, I say welcome to our inspirational moment here at Redeeming Love Christian Church. Here at Redeeming Love Christian Church, I need you to understand that we are called to redeem, unveil, and empower those that believe in Jesus Christ and those that partake even in our ministry. I am Pastor Mario Smith. And first and foremost, what I'd like to say is to please help us spread the word of what we're doing. I need you to share, tag at least 5 of your friends across your social media platforms on Facebook. Also, I need you to take a moment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just press that little bell, the bell button, so that you can be notified every time a new message or new information is uploaded to our YouTube channel. One of the things that I just want to start off, as I said, thank you before for just sharing this moment with us here. One of the things that I want to start off in sharing this point of encouragement is to let you know that God is for you and not against you. God is for you and not against you. One of the things that I do want to highlight here is that there was a message our very own Deacon Ira ministered. And if you have a moment, just go back and look through the channel. And the title of his message was "Keep Your Eyes on the Prize." Keep your eyes on the prize. And when I tell you, Deacon Ira ministered such a powerful word during that session. And one of the things that really stuck out to me, the whole theme of his message was how we handle authority. Still keeping in the same theme of authority, he really focused on how we handle authority. And one of the points in his message was watching your step, how we need to, as people in authority, how we need to be careful of what we're doing. We need to be careful of the steps that we actually take. And I just want to encourage you along those lines today, and really focus in on that point. One of the things within that point was he brought up a scripture, Acts 28, verses 1 through 6. And he didn't read the scripture actually in his message. So I want to take opportunity to read that for you today, because I really want to pull out some things that he said. One of the things I always encourage you on is, as we listen to the word, as we listen to the message, certain scriptures may be highlighted or referenced. And if that scripture isn't read, take a moment and go back and actually read those scriptures and dissect what that scripture is saying to you and how it actually relates to the entirety of the message. But if you'll indulge me for a moment, I just want to read Acts 28, verses 1 through 6. I'm going to read from the NIV version. Once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. The islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and welcomed us all because it was raining and cold. Paul gathered a pile of brushwood, and as he put it on the fire, a viper, driven out by the heat, fastened himself onto the hand of Paul. When the islanders saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to each other, "This man must be a murderer. For though he escaped from the sea, the goddess Justice has not allowed him to live." But Paul shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. I'm going to read that again. But Paul, being bitten by this snake, this viper, he shook the viper off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. The people expected him to swell up and suddenly fall to death. But after they waited a long time, and seeing nothing unusual happen to Paul, they changed their minds and said he was a god. The reading of the word is already blessed. I just want to say to you, within this scripture, I just want to pull out a few things here. The whole point of this scripture is that when Paul was attempting to add to the fire because it was cold and raining, he was met immediately with what I want to call a distraction. And so the purpose of what Paul was doing was bigger than him just building the fire. This was but a moment in time on a larger journey that Paul actually had. Paul had a mission that was bigger than actually building this fire. Paul's experience was more than building this fire. What Paul was charged to do, what he was charged to accomplish, the success of his mission was more than just building this fire. However, in doing this small little assignment, there was a distraction that came up. And this viper bit and hung onto Paul's hand. And when Ira mentioned this in his message, it caused me to really do a little bit of research because I immediately began to correlate the snake biting Paul with distractions that we find ourselves battling against in our own lives. And so I did a little lookup and I found out that there are 7,000 venomous snakes recorded currently right now on the face of this earth. There are 7,000 venomous snakes. We, as children of God, as people of God, we have about 7,000 things that can distract us from the will of God. We have about 7,000 things that can pull us off course or change the way we think or distract us from completing God's mission. And the thing about it is we cannot allow those distractions to put us in a state where we fall off course from what God is really trying to do. And I'm going to tell you why. The thing is, we have to be mindful that when a snake bites you, there are symptoms that are associated with that snake bite. And Ira tapped onto these during his message. There are symptoms that come along with having a snake bite. And I only want to focus on a few as it pertains to our mission, the things that God has charged us with, the things that God has put in our heart to be successful in that we find ourselves being distracted of. I want to just correlate the snake bite with distractions in your life. And one of the symptoms of a snake bite is blurred vision. Now, keep in mind, there's hundreds and hundreds of symptoms with these 7,000 different snake bites, but I just want to focus on a few that make sense for the point that I'm trying to bring of encouragement on today. The first symptom I want to talk about in a snake bite is blurred vision. What is it that God has put in your spirit? What is it that God has given you the ability to cast vision for? What is it that you're able to see the end of? While you're still at point A, you're seeing Z. You have vision for this thing. And a lot of times we'll allow these distractions to blur our vision, to throw us off course, to keep us from getting from point A to point Z in the mission that God has put on our heart. We can't allow the snake bite to give us blurred vision. The next symptom I want to talk about that happens when you get bit by a venomous snake is some snakes' venoms can cause paralysis, can cause you to completely freeze up and stop. It attacks your muscles and your ability to be able to move and function the way that you want to. You may be given the message from your mind to say, arm, I need you to move, but the venom from that snake can cause paralysis to take place. How many times have we allowed the distractions of God not the distractions of God, but how many times have we allowed the distractions in our life to throw us off course from what God has charged us to do, from what God has allowed us to do? How many times have we stood stagnant and still based upon the circumstance and situation that we find us in? We freeze up and panic. And we don't get anything accomplished because we're frozen from this circumstance that's in our way. The next symptom I want to talk about is numbness. A snake bite can bring numbness. That's one of the worst states to be in is to be in a circumstance or situation or have a distraction in your life that you become numb to. Because when you become numb, you don't really realize or feel the pain or impact or negative effect of what that thing is doing because you have become numb to the situation. When you have numbness on your body, that means that that area has no sensation or feeling. It has altered your sense of touch and feeling at that point, and you don't know the impact or harm you may be causing to yourself. Numbness is one of the worst things that can happen to us in a situation of a symptom of a snake bite. And finally, the worst symptom of a snake bite is death. How many distractions or snake bites have we allowed to completely kill what it is that we have been charged to do? How many times have we allowed distractions to kill the mission of God on our lives? How many times have we allowed the distractions to kill us being able to stay in line with God's will and purpose for our lives? These are symptoms of this snake bite. And the other thing that I want to bring to your attention is the fact that in the scripture, it tells us that the people had an expectation. When they saw him get bit, they had an expectation that he would swell up and suddenly fall to death. I want to let you know that when circumstances and situations come in your life, there's people around you that see and watch what you're going through. And whether they communicate it to you or not, they cast judgment on you based upon that circumstance or situation. I remember an old friend of mine said, you know, whenever I go into a church, I always see poinsettias, beautiful poinsettias. And I immediately thought about flowers. And he was like, no, the poinsettias I'm talking about aren't flowers, they're people. You have people in the church that are poinsettias. They point out what's wrong and sit around and watch and see what's going to happen. And these people did exactly that to Paul. The scripture doesn't say that they raced to help him or that nobody else pulled the snake off of him. They said that they watched and they had an expectation of him suddenly swelling and falling to his death. And I know that they began to cast judgment because they said, wow, since this snake bit him, he must be a murderer. They began to cast negative judgment upon who Paul was as a person. They cast judgment on his character. They cast judgment on who he was as an individual based upon the circumstance that he found himself in. But the scripture says Paul shook the snake off into the fire. When I found the website that talked about the 7,000 venomous snakes that's documented on the face of this earth, and it began to talk about the symptoms of these snake bites, in the next section of that site, it began to talk about things that you need to do when you're bitten by a snake. And I found it interesting that the first thing that they said that you need to do is to remain calm. The first thing that you need to do when you find a distraction, when you're faced with a circumstance that's unexpected to you, the first thing you need to do is remain calm. The reason that you have the ability to remain calm is because, like I said in the beginning, God is for you and not against you. You have the right as a follower of Christ to remain calm in all circumstances and situations, knowing that the Father is mindful of what you're going through, and he has already prepared a way of escape. He's already prepared your point of healing. He's already prepared the path of what you need to do in order to reach the point of success for the vision that he has given you. That's what we have to remember. As these individuals stood around and they watched Paul, it says in the Bible that they watched him for a long time. I need you to know, people of God, that there's people watching you. They're watching your responses. There's people that are waiting to see, how are you going to handle this issue? How is this issue or circumstance going to affect your responses? How are you going to behave as a result of what you're going through? Is this going to alter your attitude? Is this going to augment your character? Are you going to compromise your integrity as a result of this? What are you going to do because of this distraction? These are people around you watching to see how you respond. And like Paul, I just need you to shake it off. Whatever that distraction is, shake it off and keep it moving forward, the same way that Paul did. And as those people around you continue to watch, those people that have cast judgment on you, those people that are waiting for you to swell up and die, as they continue to watch you and see the manifestation and power of God upon your life and how you prevail through this situation and circumstance, it's going to change how they think about you, but not only you, but how they think about the God that you serve. See, I don't blame the people who cast judgment or sit around and watch and do nothing. The thing is that I understand that these people are the same people that if they were in that same circumstance, they have no clue of how they would handle it or what they would actually do. So by all means, the only thing that they can do is cast judgment based upon their own personal reaction of the same circumstance or situation that you found yourself in. So now they're watching you to see, is there another alternative? Is there another outcome that could possibly happen from what I think in my mind? Is there something else that could happen as a result of what I see you going through? So I don't blame those people for casting judgment. I look at it as an opportunity to show them a more excellent way. I look at it as an opportunity to allow God to reign supreme over my situation and circumstance and have God play it out in front of their preview. As I come to my close here, I want to encourage you to stay on course. And as Ira said, keep your eye on the prize. The thing that made Ira's message so significant for me, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but Ira went through some things leading up to him giving this message. In just recent weeks before he gave that message, he lost his mother-in-law, who was very dear to their family. And the very week that he gave and delivered that powerful and impactful message, that week before, he lost his very own brother. Back to back, he lost his mother-in-law and lost his brother. And yet and still, while he had all of these distractions going on, while he had every right and circumstance to say, hey, you know what? I can't do this right now because I'm dealing with so much. Ira still kept his eyes on the prize and came into this house and delivered a powerful message through his circumstances and issues that he was facing himself. That spoke volumes to me. I want you to go back and listen to this powerful message from Ira, and I want you to be encouraged by the fact that God is going to give you an opportunity. Through the distractions that come in your life, God is going to give you an opportunity to show all the people that's around you, the people that's watching you and casting judgment and waiting for you to swell and die, because if they were in that same situation, that's probably what would happen to them, and they think what their outcome would be. But you have the opportunity to show them a more excellent way. Stay encouraged, people of God. As we close, I just want to thank you for watching us here at Redeeming Love Christian Church. And always remember to be encouraged in love, peace, and blessings be unto you. In Jesus' name.